Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We've got an update on some key beef industry policy issues from NCBA President Jerry Bone. Plus, how choosing the right fly control program can make a positive impact on your operation.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hello and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Kate Maher. Being a leader in the nation's oldest and largest cattle industry organization takes dedication, as Kansas producer Jerry Bone has proven over the years. He's served in multiple ways, including his current role as president of NCBA. He's here now to discuss some of the key issues facing the industry. Jerry, first off, can you update us on the work of the Live Cattle Marketing Committee and its efforts to help producers manage risk?
Yeah, thank you, Kate, and good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. We do have a live cattle marketing subgroup that's been working since our summer meeting last July in Denver. This group, it's a group of 6 individuals from different segments of the industry from around the country. We've probably met over 30 times since that time, as we have tried to come up with a trigger program that would be conducted by the industry on a voluntary basis. That work is ongoing. We're about to finish the first quarter, so we will be looking back in arrears at how much negotiated trade took place in January, February, March of 2021. We have yet to completely complete the packer portion of our program. We're working on that. In fact, we have calls later this week with 2 of the packers to firm up our work with them, and hopefully cooperation from them as so we can move forward and have the whole program complete. So it's a work in progress. I would say there is certainly some positive signs. The concern has been the lack of negotiated trade in Texas and Kansas. I think both of those states have stepped up. We haven't had every week where we met the goals of the program, but certainly appears that more weeks than not that the negotiated trade volumes were met, and I'm optimistic that as we go forward, we are changing a little bit the way that we do some business in an attempt to have more negotiated trade.
Talk about beef demand and some of NCBA's work to make sure that stays strong.
Beef demand's been a shining star. During the pandemic, the demand for beef has been outstanding, and not only domestically, but export markets around the world. And we have a team in Washington that works exclusively on working on exports and making certain that the rules and the demand from other countries is met, and that we make certain that our producers have access to those markets. That export market's worth something over $300 per head today for every animal that we process. NCBA also is a proud checkoff contractor, and they're doing work on the checkoff side to make certain that beef stays in the forefront. During the pandemic, we obviously had to change our focus. Typically, our efforts are split between retail demand and retail customers and hotel, restaurant, institutional customers. But because of the pandemic, the HRI trade virtually had to shut down. And so our team had to refocus its efforts and work more with consumers that cook at home. And fortunately for us, many of them didn't know really how to cook beef and also about the cuts of beef. And so our team was able to interact with beef consumers aggressively during the past year. And I think we've probably created some new home cooks that here before now had probably never prepared beef products, and we've helped them better understand what those cuts are and how to prepare them. And so some of the programs that we've been involved in, we were back on national TV for the first time with our Hallmark campaign between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And then the Beef Checkoff also sponsored the Beef It's What's for Dinner 300 race, NASCAR race in Daytona, Florida in mid-February. And both of those TV programs created a huge number of consumers seeing our product and seeing our advertisements. And in fact, our signs are still up at the Daytona Raceway now as other activities take place at the track. Another program that we're involved in for demand building promoting beef as a first food for babies, and we've been working on that from January through March. That's a focus of getting consumers to give their children ages 6 months to 2.5 years, get them started on eating beef and getting all the benefits of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that are included in beef, and help them get started on the right foot.
And the rescheduled Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show is coming up in a few months. Can you talk about the important policy work that will go on there?
We're going to meet hopefully in August, mid-August in Nashville, Tennessee. As most of you are aware, we had to cancel our scheduled convention in February because of COVID. We will be doing a lot of policy work. I think there was a reluctance this winter because of COVID and the fact that we had to conduct our winter meetings virtually. There was a reluctance to do a lot of heavy lifting in policy. So I'm assuming this summer when we meet in Nashville that there will be considerably more resolutions come forward from our state affiliates. I'm certain cattle marketing will be a big topic again with the Cattle Marketing Committee. Obviously, with this new administration, sustainability and climate change will be at the forefront. So I'm sure a couple of our policy committees will be dealing with that also. And certainly the checkoff committees will be meeting. And this is the meeting where they are presented with ARs from all of the checkoff contractors. And so that's where they provide them feedback as they prepare for the Beef Operating Committee meeting later in the fall, where funds are allocated for research projects and promotion projects for the coming year. So it's going to be a meeting that's going to have a lot of heavy lifting, and particularly because we haven't been able to get face-to-face to speak of, I think there will be a great deal of interest in both sides of the association and getting good work done.
Jerry, what's your message to your fellow producers about why they should become involved with and join NCBA?
Well, NCBA is, I think well known for being having a very lively, big presence in Washington, D.C. And recently we heard from an individual who is not really a member of NCBA and over time has questioned some of our work. And he made the comment last summer during the COVID crisis, if you want to get something done in Washington, D.C., you better be affiliated with the National Cattlemen's Beef Association as it relates to anything that has to do with agriculture. And I think that speaks very well for our association and the work that we do on the policy side, and certainly the checkoff work that we do, new product development, beef safety research, consumer nutrition research, all of those things help sell beef. And we have done a really good job of promoting beef and getting it on the consumer's plate, and certainly our work getting more exports and working with the Cattlemen's Beef Board and the U.S. Meat Export Federation to get beef sent to around the world. And, the Chinese market's a good example where NCBA has helped lay groundwork to get more access there.
Jerry, thank you for your time and for your service.
Hey, thanks for having us, and hope you all have a great day.
The cattle industry needs a strong voice in our nation's capital, and that takes all of us working together. You can help by becoming a member of NCBA. It's easy to do. Call 866-233-3872 or go online to ncba.org. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll examine the impact that COVID-19 has had on U.S. beef demand. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It is inevitable, like the rising and setting of the sun. Your gravel driveway will need maintenance. Drudgery? Never. Be the right person with the right tools doing the job the right way by watching How to Maintain a Gravel Drive Using a Box Blade with Hydraulic Scarifiers. Brought to you by tipsnotebook.com. When better how-to videos are made, we will make them.
Join Maddox Cattle Company for their Maternalizer bred cow sale on Wednesday, April 14th at Ogallala Livestock Auction. Selling over 625 head, including 520 5 to 7-year-old cows and 110 first calf heifers. Also offering 15 elite 2-year-old bulls ready to go to work. Maddox Cattle Company Maternalizer composite females emphasize maternal predictability and heterosis. The females are designed to graze year-round with minimal inputs. Don't miss the Maddox Cattle Company Maternalizer Bred Cow Sale on April 14th. For a video of sale offerings and more, visit MaddoxCattleCompany.com. Do you have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team or your breed association to learn more.
There is no question that COVID-19 caused major disruptions in the beef industry, and we're still feeling some of those today. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Matt Fleck has a closer look at the impact the pandemic had on consumer demand for beef.
COVID-19 created a year of challenges, but one thing remained unchanged: the love that American consumers have for beef.
I think we learned a number of things about consumer behavior during the pandemic. One has been on the beef side, that consumers still want beef in their diets. It's been remarkable that even in the early stages of the pandemic, when grocery store shelves were empty, it made sense that things like flour or rice, these shelf-stable items, would have flown off the shelves. But interestingly, meat and beef in particular also were in high demand among consumers as they stocked their fridges and freezers.
Dr. Jason Lusk is the head of the Department of Agricultural Economics at Purdue University. As a food economist, it's his job to study what people eat and why. Dr. Lusk observed that over the past year, as the pandemic shuttered many restaurants, consumers bought more beef at retail and prepared more home-cooked meals.
Of course, during the pandemic, we were eating out a lot less demand and product sales to restaurants. And that has an impact on demand and on different parts of the animal. Chucks, rounds, parts of the primal that we tend to use in making ground beef have done quite well through the pandemic. Apparently, they're at a price point that a lot of consumers are willing to buy, and it's also a product many consumers are accustomed to and feel comfortable using at home in their own kitchens.
Normally, an increase in demand would be a positive, but the pandemic hit processors hard, as some of the largest packing plants in the country were forced to shut down as COVID-19 spread among their employees.
When we were really in the depths of the problems associated with the meatpacking shutdowns, there were lots of statements like the food system is broken. And I didn't think that was an accurate statement, but at the same time, I thought that the meat sector was in very serious critical condition. Consumers were wanting meat on their plate, and we were uncertain about whether we would be able to keep those grocery stores stocked, despite how bad it was in the moment. Within a month or so, at least in terms of total processing numbers, we got ourselves back to something that looked a little more normal. And it does speak to, at least the system was more resilient than might appear, despite the fact that in the moment, I think it was a really worrying and concerning situation.
Now that many of the processing issues have been fixed, Dr. Lusk believes there's a real opportunity for farmers and ranchers to either start or increase the amount of beef they sell directly to consumers.
We seem to see increased interest among consumers for direct-to-consumer marketing and for more local, more regional processors where they at least feel that there's a more secure supply of beef. And so I think there are already opportunities at the moment, and probably over the next several years will continue to be opportunities for producers to have a more direct link with the food consumers than they've had in the past.
Dr. Lusk has one additional bit of advice on how producers can protect their operations against future disruptions.
One classic way of trying to reduce risk is to make sure you have multiple products or multiple markets that you can cater to. Is there a different crop you can grow, a different set of animals, or a different set of market opportunities you can reach out to, even if it's all cattle? Are there different segments that you can target in different ways? So I think that's also a form of insurance and risk mitigation.
Even though there's still some uncertainty in the U.S. economy and in the beef industry, Dr. Lusk says cattle producers have reason to be optimistic since demand has been strong.
Despite a lot of the turmoil that we lived through over the course of the last year, it's still the case that beef demand is very strong. It's been a lot of volatility, but our estimates suggest, for example, that wholesale beef demand is 15% higher now than it was at the beginning of 2019. So consumer demand has been strong, and I think that's a really positive and hopefully comforting message for a lot of livestock producers.
Bottom line, the numbers show beef remains the food consumers want when times are good or when faced with a crisis. I'm Matt Fleck, reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Dr. Lusk will be a Cattlemen's College speaker at the rescheduled Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA Trade Show. This event will run from August 10th through the 12th in Nashville, Tennessee. You can get all the latest news and information at the website convention.ncba.org. Recently, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association, as a contractor to the Beef Checkoff, partnered with a group of culinary professionals called Chef's Roll to create a series of videos highlighting the importance of the Beef Quality Assurance Program for both cattle producers and the chefs who serve beef. Each video follows a chef as they visit a cattle operation to learn how BQA practices are used to sustainably and responsibly raise high-quality beef. The chefs then, in turn, prepare their signature beef dish for the producer. Here's a look at one of those videos.
My name is Catherine Mathis. I'm the executive chef and owner of Backdoor Barbecue and Pizzeria Gusto. I grew up in Oklahoma. I've been a chef for 30 plus years. I've done everything from fine dining to delis.
My name's Tom Fanning. We're in Buffalo, Oklahoma. This is Buffalo Feeders. It's a 32,000 head cattle feeding operation in northwest Oklahoma. Buffalo Feeders is a custom feed yard. And a feed yard, we receive cattle off of grass, usually a 700 to 800 pound animal that comes in here.
Meeting Tom was amazing. He was very educational, very knowledgeable. Any question that I had, he had a great answer for. And just seeing him working around the pens, around the cows, knowing that his staff, some of his staff has been there for 30 plus years and they're into the 4th generation. This is a smoked pastrami sandwich on jalapeno cornbread with bread and butter pickles, red onion, Swiss cheese, and mayo mustard. The smoked pastrami is special because I actually won a contest with it, and most people don't smoke pastrami. It's getting a little more popular, but we smoke it for 14 hours. We make our own brine. It brines for 7 days. It's smoked for 14 hours.
So BQA, the Beef Quality Assurance Program, is everything we do, whether it's receiving grain and our quality control for our ingredients that go into the ration, with cattle handling, cattle care in the pens, and just the overall care and welfare of the animals, because the right way is the only way.
I love cooking with beef because it's versatile. Like, you can grill it, you can smoke it, you can sear it. Beef, it's what's for dinner.
Joining us now to share her behind-the-scenes story is Chef Catherine Mathis. Chef, thanks for being here. First, can you tell us a little bit about your background as a chef?
Let's see. I remember seeing Julia Child for the first time when I was a kid and thought that that's something I wanted to do. So my mom was always a good cook. So I, was always in the kitchen with her. Was going to school, was going to college and needed to take a summer break. Just took a job in a restaurant and never went back to school. Been doing this since I was 21 and I'm only 25 now. So
aren't we all right?
No. So let's see, I've been doing it for 30 plus years.
What was it like working with Tom Fanning to create this video?
So Tom is I'd never met him before, and he was like, he wasn't what I pictured a feedlot manager to be. He was really laid back. I'm not quite sure his degree from OSU, but he's, well educated, been in the business, seems to really just love what he does. And I gathered that he just loves his life. And, a lot of his employees on the lot have been there 20 plus years. So he runs a really great business, and he's really lighthearted. Like, I don't know what I expected from a feedlot manager, but.
Had you ever been to a feed yard before? What were your expectations going in?
I've been to a feed yard before. I guess it had been 20 some years ago. I guess I never remembered meeting the manager or whatever, but the guy leading us through was a cowboy and rough and tough. And Tom just wasn't that. I have driven by feedlots. I grew up in the Panhandle of Oklahoma, so there's feedlots and pig farms all over, circling our city of Guyman, and just the expectation of it being a stinky, smelly, dirty place. It wasn't that. Granted, we were first thing in the morning, so it didn't have a chance for it to get hot and stinky and steamy, but it probably was the cleanest feedlot that I've seen or been to.
Chef, what was your biggest takeaway from your visit in terms of beef production?
I think the big takeaway is just how knowledgeable he is about taking care of the cows. Had no idea that they have a nutritionist come in and make sure that all the diets are right to feed the cows as they grow. Like, the cows come in at a certain weight and go out at a certain weight, and they're moved from block to block depending on their size and their age. And I was just amazed at how technology in the feedlot has gotten great. Like, everything, all the feed trucks have GPS, and if they're going down the wrong road to feed the wrong and start feeding the wrong block, then there's a siren that goes, there's an alarm that goes off to alert them of that. Tom's lot, they mix their own, they get corn and cook it and then roll it. And so they make their own mixes. So, that was something I never knew happened. Like, I just envisioned, you throw a bunch of stuff in a truck and then you just feed the cows. But like, the technology behind his lot, and maybe all the lots now, are that way. But I was amazed at all of that.
Have you had any feedback either from your consumers or from your fellow chefs about this video?
Everybody has given me a thumbs up on that. The customers, when we put the video out, everybody loved the video. They were excited to see, that I'd gone to a feedlot, and, I had a lot of people ask me how that was and, what my experience was. And a lot of the chefs, would like to go out and visit a feedlot now.
What is it that you like most about cooking with beef?
It's really versatile. It's breakfast, lunch, or dinner. You can dress it up, you can dress it down. You can do anything with it. It translates into all sorts of different cuisines. So, we have Big Truck Tacos, Backdoor Barbecue, and Pizzeria Gusto, and beef is used at all three of those restaurants in various ways and forms.
Chef Catherine, thank you for your time. To watch the rest of the Chef's Rolls videos or learn about some of the other great ways checkoff dollars are being used to increase beef demand, go to the website beefitswhatsfordinner.com. You'll also find many great resources that you can share with consumers about the value of the beef you raise. Still to come on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we'll explain how the right fly control program can have major benefits for both your cattle and your bottom line. Don't go away, we'll have more right after this.
From the very beginning, Ritchie has been dedicated to one thing: helping people deliver fresh, constant water to their animals. Today's Ritchie waterers rely on a valve design that remains much the same as it was in 1921. It's a simple idea: do it right, and the rest will take care of itself. We never set out to create a company that would be around for 100 years. We just wanted to create something great.
That certain time in the day when you can take a deep breath, knowing your work is done. That's the feeling Aspen products can create. Cost-effective alternatives to name brands that deliver the same results. Qualaxin is one of them. Use it to prevent and treat respiratory disease in your herd. Then breathe easy. Find them at Animal Health International.
Welcome back. Flies are often an underestimated menace to cattle producers and can have a significant impact on the well-being and economic value of the herd. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter has more on how the right fly control program can help keep your cattle healthy and productive.
U.S. livestock producers lose $1 billion annually due to the horn fly. Add to this that stable flies cost producers an estimated $2.2 billion annually, and it's evident that flies are more than just a nuisance for the cattle industry. Dewey Dyer, general manager at the Smith Cattle Company's Pyramid Ranch in Streetman, Texas, has seen the benefits of an effective fly control program in his herd.
We got a background in operation. We usually run about 60,000 head of cattle through a year down here in East Texas, and we get them straight and send them to the feed yards. We want them to have a good frame on them and for them to weigh about 700 pounds, ready to go to the feed yard and eat and go on.
East Texas in the summer can be hot, wet, and muddy. It's a perfect breeding ground for flies.
Usually the worst time for us is about June and July. The cattle just keep walking and fighting flies, and the gains go down if you don't do some kind of fly control. It seems to affect all the cattle the same, and more so probably the straight Charolais. You can see it on them more than anything, but we fight all classes of cattle with flies. And the fly tags have been really good for the way our operation works.
Dr. Mark Hilton is a technical consultant on the Elanco Animal Health Beef Team, a former practicing livestock veterinarian who also raises Gelbvieh and Balancer cattle on a seed stock operation in central Indiana.
My job with Elanco entails helping our sales staff, helping veterinarians, help their customers have a more profitable beef business. A single hornfly bites the animal 30 times a day. So if there's 500 hornflies on a cow, that means she gets bitten every 6 seconds. That's not fair. Our cattle deserve the best we have every day, so we've got to use some kind of control to take care of the flies.
Picking the right products and the right time to use them is critical to fly control success.
Fly control protocols are easy and complex. They're easy because we have so many tools. They're complex because we have so many tools, and that's where you need some assistance on what do I need to use, when, and where.
We've used the fly tags for the last 8 years. When we bring the cattle in, we have to process them all. So we put a fly tag in immediately starting in March. And we'll run that same program all the way through till about the 1st of November. Here at the Pyramid Ranch, when we process the cattle, we put a fly tag in, and we also pour them with Siduct and Poron to help out with the initial fly control. And then periodically through the year, we'll mist them with permectin products and just to help control everything. We can see a big difference using different products different times of the year so we don't build up any resistance.
For cattle producers starting a fly control program for the first time, Dr. Hilton suggests considering the Corathon insecticide ear tag.
Corathon is the tag that really changed the entire industry on fly tags. They made the technology where 50%, that's 50% of the weight of that tag is insecticide. No one had ever been able to figure out how to manufacture a tag with that kind of concentration. As a veterinarian, I will get a thanks doc. Once in a while I get a phone call, a week later, hey, those calves you treated are doing great. But I never get thank you phone calls on a product. It happened time and time again on Corathon. Producers would call me a month, 5 weeks, 6 weeks after we put the tags in and said, that's the darndest tag I've ever seen. Our fly control is amazing. I really can't think of another product that I've used where I've had that kind of response. So it's my first choice.
If another producer asked me my opinion on fly control, I would tell them to use the Corathon fly tag with the Siduct and Poron and misting them with the permethrin throughout the year.
When I think of overall fly control and the benefit to the animal and the producer, I think number one, animal welfare. My cattle deserve the best every day, and it's the right thing to do to not have them fighting flies all the time.
In Texas, I'm Brian Baxter reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
To determine the right fly control program for your operation, talk with your veterinarian, animal health consultant, or go to elencolivestock.com. Up next, we'll introduce you to an Iowa family that has made stewardship and conservation a priority on their operation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Grass is the center of our universe. We've got to have a grass program that we can count on and plan on. That's what we need to sustain us, to keep us growing, to keep us prospering.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Cattle producers can face all kinds of challenges when it comes to protecting the environment, but they all have a common goal: leaving the land better than they found it. Today, we're taking a look at the 2020 regional winners of the Environmental Stewardship Award. Let's visit the Region 3 award recipients from Iowa.
In southwest Iowa, Randy and Jill Yukon have been raising cattle and growing crops for decades. Now, their farm has entered a new phase as they've started the process of passing the operation on to their daughter and son-in-law, Michelle and Steve Myers.
Randy and I were thrilled to have the next generation coming on, Michelle and Steve, to take over the operation.
It means a lot to have my family involved, that they're interested in helping achieve what we've started.
It's actually a century farm that we live on, which means it's been in the family 100 years. We're just really proud to be here and be able to do what we love.
Soil conservation has been a priority for Randy and Jill, and they've found that cattle are a valuable tool to help them achieve their goals. The Angus-based herd provides an opportunity to put fragile hillsides that are prone to erosion into more stable pasture.
In this section of Iowa, southwest Iowa, we have some fragile soil in places. Because of the fragile soil, we have to protect our runoff and try and hold everything we can, nutrients, water, on the farm.
The streams that are run through our farms, both the 7 Mile and the Nishnabotna, end up running into the Missouri River, which then flows into the Mississippi River and flows down to the Gulf of Mexico. So we are all engaged in the effort to limit the soil erosion and limit nutrients that leave our farm. So we do everything that we can, cover crops, terracing, to prevent nutrients from getting into those naturally occurring waterways.
Some of the things we found through cover crops, through grazing cattle, is that's what holds our dirt in place, and that's what's kind of kept us successful and profitable in the years. God only gave us so much soil. We want to make sure that we keep it for generations to come.
Randy and Jill realized rotational grazing could help them maximize production while still protecting the land. In order to make their grazing plan work, the family had to install nearly 10,000 feet of fencing, 3,000 feet of water pipeline, and 8 water tanks.
We had to make investments in fencing and in water because you have to get water to each of these paddocks. So it's a work in progress. We still have a lot more that we want to do, but we've been able to improve our pastures over the years.
We try to make it as labor inexpensive as possible by having it set up so cattle get used to the rotation. When you open a gate, holler at them, they come. The rotational grazing also gives the grass a little break. Depending on the size of the paddock, it might be a few days, it might be a week, changing them between paddocks.
We really love rotational grazing out here. It's worked really well for our operation from the standpoint of we're not overgrazing the grass. We're giving certain paddocks a break to get some rain, to get some sun, to get some regrowth. We take that opportunity to subdivide pastures as well with some high tensile wire and some posts along the way to kind of divide a pasture further depending on what we need at that point in time for our grass sustainability.
We've always said through the years that our cattle producers are some of our best stewards of the land. This is a definite example, the Yukon family, no question about it.
The Yukon and Myers families made an unusual choice for a farm in Iowa. They took cropland they'd purchased and converted it into pasture for the cattle. That required renovation work to ensure the land had everything it needed to support their cattle.
It was quite the project. Seeded down a bunch of grass, put in a bunch of cross fences, built 2 big ponds. Below those ponds, we put a couple watering sources for our cattle. We've also since then restored a well and are working on putting in some paddock fences for rotational grazing.
We just looked at it and said, this doesn't really make sense. It should have always been in pasture. So we were just doing our part to try and do what's best for the land.
Not very many people that I know are buying cropland and putting it back into pasture land and making it profitable. That's the thing that I admire the most about Randy and Jill and their family.
Yukon Farms also has a feedlot, which allows them to finish their cattle. The manure from the feedlot is collected and applied to their crop acres as fertilizer. In this way, all aspects of the farm work as part of a sustainable ecosystem.
We take a holistic approach on our operation where, we're raising the corn, we feed it through the cattle, then we use the manure from the feedlot to put back to the crops, and it all just kind of works seamlessly.
We take advantage of services that help us analyze our soils, know exactly what needs to be put on the soils so that we can prescribe what needs to be put out there.
It's fantastic to come across people like Randy and Jill and Steve and Michelle. They've been working hard to try and not only utilize the livestock manure to the best of the ability, but no-till and cover crops and all the technologies that they've instituted on their farm.
It's clear Randy and Jill have a deep commitment to stewardship and conservation, and these are values that have been firmly embraced by the next generation.
I believe cattle and a good, clean environment can go hand in hand, that the cattle are the reason why we are able to be good stewards of the land here in southwest Iowa.
Cattle work really well for us. We're hopeful that we can continue to do that into the future and that more people can adopt practices to keep livestock on the landscape.
If we're going to be here farming this ground in 100, 200 years, this is the stuff we have to do now to make sure we're moving in the right direction.
Myself and my family care for the land, care for the cattle, because we feel it is the right thing to do. Without water, without sunshine, without grass, you don't have beef. It all works together.
To find out more about the Environmental Stewardship Award winners, see photos and additional videos, or even learn how to nominate someone for this award, visit the website environmentalstewardship.org. Still ahead, it's time for a visit with our good friend Baxter Black. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
These are the pennies it costs for Alticid IGR protection, making it one of the best values in the market designed specifically for fighting hornflies on pasture. As a supplement, Alticid IGR is part of what you're already doing, and as a feed-through, what your cattle are always doing. Take shelter from the swarm for just 2 to 3 cents per animal per day. That's just $4.50 per animal per season for hornfly protection that has been performing for over 40 years with no known resistance. Alticid IGR.
Did you know that Prefert makes over 1,000 different farm, ranch, and rodeo items? And now, thanks to Prefert Direct, it's easier than ever before to get access to every item Prefert makes delivered direct to your local dealer. For more information about Prefert Direct, visit us at Prefert.com. Prefert, America's #1 name in farm, ranch, and rodeo.
Out of the box for the Reride Side of Rodeo. 3 audio books, rodeo novels by Baxter Black. A total of 23 hours following our cowboy guys and gals on the road to the finals. Rambunctious, exciting, kind-hearted, and funny, of course. $39.90. CDs or downloads, BaxterBlack.com. 800-654-2550. On the road to the rodeo, horse show, state fair, ball game, or grandma's house, climb on up and take a ride with me. I've never claimed to be a cowman, and I got the scars to prove it. Frostbit fingers, baler twine blisters, and an odd scrape on the side of my head where the hair won't grow back from last winter when my good horse slipped down on an ice slick on the calving lot. Well, I went out over the front quarter, hung my left spur in the canvas medicine bag, and lost a chunk of my ear when he dragged me unconscious over the rusty metal feeder by the gate. Yet, my ear now looks like a chew toy. I never claimed to be a horseshoer, and I got the scars to prove it. A permanent stoop, calluses, and a slice across the inside of my thigh. See, I'd driven the first nail on this little gelding when a disoriented fruit bat soared down out of the rafters and tangled in the horse's forelock. He jerked his foot out of my grip. Now you can see what's happened. The wound has healed crudely. My girlfriend made a pair of cutoffs from my jeans, and we made a pair of coasters out of the scraps left from my shoeing chaps. I never claimed to be a dairyman, and I got the scars to prove it. Narcolepsy, deafness, a Dutch accent, and one thumb missing from the time I was inspecting the automatic grain feeder belt, thinking some of the buckets were loose. My coverall sleeve hung up in the teeth and dragged me across the milking stanchion, electrical wire, hydraulic hoses, and pressure lines. Well, my sleeve finally tore off as we were dragged through the cinder block wall. Well, I spent a half a day in the hospital, and when they questioned the hired milker on duty, he said he'd been listening to Led Zeppelin on his iPod and hadn't heard a thing. I never claimed to be a TV star, and I got the scars to prove it.
Cut! Baxter, can't you get this right? What is the matter with you? That
this is a mark right here, Bax. That's a mark.
Stop
right.
Start listening. Can you not listen? Come on, guys. Let's get out of here.
Goat roper.
Let's get out of here.
I can't take anymore.
Oh, waste of freaking time.
Are you what?
Yes, I'm
working. This is Baxter Black from out there.
Do you have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team or your breed association to learn more.
Welcome back to Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Now, there's no question that FFA makes a positive impact on the lives of its members. We've got a look at the Arkansas FFA Association and a camp that plays a significant role in the state.
The Arkansas FFA Association was chartered in 1928. From the beginning, all of the chapters across the state have been dedicated to making a positive difference in the lives of students by developing their potential for premier leadership, personal growth, and career success through agricultural education.
This is an organization for students of any background, any interests, and we want to be an all-inclusive organization. And so if we have students interested in technology, medicine, chemistry, forestry, any type of the sciences, students that want to go into business, students that want to go into law, we welcome all of those students to be part of our FFA programs, because the basic leadership and personal development skills that they're going to learn are going to be helpful in all of those careers.
Agriculture has a $16 billion impact on Arkansas's economy. It's our largest sector of the economy in Arkansas, and we think that we play a pretty critical role in that. We're preparing the future workers, the future leaders, the ones that are going to be making the decisions, whether that be policy or on the farm.
A key to the FFA in Arkansas is it helps them learn that everybody's the same when it comes down to it. We all treasure the same values, we all treasure the same life experiences, and that's why FFA is important in Arkansas.
Families benefit from people who have work ethic and character strengths that make good people, and FFA builds that. So families are stronger, communities are stronger, corporations are stronger. So we don't just contribute leadership for the ag industry, I just see us making Arkansas a better place.
For almost a century, the Arkansas FFA has called Camp Couchdale home. Nestled along the banks of Lake Catherine, southeast of Hot Springs, the camp gives FFA members a place to visit and create lasting memories.
Camp Couchdale has a really neat history. It began really in 1929 when a group of ag teachers brought a bunch of boys here to the banks of Lake Catherine, and a man named Harvey Couch in 1931 actually ended up deeding 31 acres to the Arkansas FFA, and it's grown since then. We now have about 75 acres that we own exclusively. The neat thing too about our property is that so many of the structures are original structures, or there are pieces of the original structures that you can still see there.
I think that Camp Couchdale for us as state officers is just a huge learning place, because we have all of these resources here to teach us and to make us better leaders, and Camp Couchdale is really where those come together for us.
More than 1 million youth have spent time at Camp Couchdale for various conferences that promote leadership and personal growth.
Each school year we have about 1,800 kids that just participate in leadership development events here at camp. And I think what we see and what we know happens here at Couchdale is it's a fertile ground for developing leaders.
When we go to those leadership development events, I encourage my students to talk to the members from the other schools that you see there, because they're going to have an FFA experience that's going to be the same as yours in some way, but totally different in other ways. And it's a great way for them to get a better exposure and a better idea of what FFA as a whole has to offer, and to see some of the other opportunities other than what we offer at our chapter, to be able to have a better understanding.
I just love Camp Couchdale so much because so many members come here and it just impacts so many memories on them. And as a state officer, I get to be a part of those memories. So I know so many members from across the state that'll come up to me and they'll be like, that one time at camp this summer, and it just makes you happy to know that Camp Couchdale and myself had a happy memory that had an effect on them that will maybe change their future in some way.
The Arkansas FFA prides itself on helping members expand their talents and explore their interests in a broad range of career pathways. The program also helps students develop the tools they need to prepare for future leadership roles.
The future leaders that we grow in FFA are going to change Arkansas someday. Not just Arkansas agriculture, but if you're an FFA member and you can go off and be a doctor, but you're going to be a better doctor because you are an FFA member in high school. Because we don't just create agriculturalists, we create leaders and speakers and communicators. And being able to do that in any job is going to make you successful, and more successful youth means a more successful Arkansas.
FFA is important because it grows leaders across our state and across our nation. It really inspires kids on what they want to do with their future and their career, and I think it's so beneficial to any kid, whether you grew up on a farm or you grew up in the city.
So my time in FFA is unmatched. I would go back and do it all over again if I could. I had some of the best times of my life with the people that I've met, the people that I got to fellowship with. Without FFA, I wouldn't have the work ethic and the drive for ag that I do, and the value of being in FFA and being involved with with the organization itself is priceless.
In Arkansas, I'm Brad Buller reporting for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thanks so much for spending time with us. And we'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.